Anime for blondes.
Is anime in general for kids? Is it appropriate for kids?
Our kids are not allowed to watch anime.
Action! Hello, I'm Becca.
And I'm Allie.
And welcome to Anime for Blondes,
the girly pop podcast made for girls, gays, theys, and blondes.
The blondes is crucial.
And is it made for kids?
Is anime for blondes for kids?
That's a question. I do curse a lot.
I do have to say I don't think our podcast is for kids.
Period. We do get a little...
We get a little
spicy.
We get a little spicy.
But is anime for kids?
Is anime in general for kids? Is it appropriate for kids?
And that's the debate we'll be having today. Or not really a debate, because we're not, we're not against each other here.
Not really a debate, because we're kind of both on the same side, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I assume that I will have to play devil's advocate a little bit more, because I assume that you're more on the, like, kids should be able to watch anime from the moment they're born, like...
No.
I think I probably have a little more nuance.
Okay.
As someone you do tend to have a little bit more of black and white thinking.
I do. I think that's just the Libra in me, you know?
It reminds me of me when I was younger.
Oh my God.
I'm so much older and wiser.
You 9 months ago when you were my age.
Exactly. I'm like, I used to think like that too.
I think you'll be surprised by my point of view.
Okay.
So, yes. So the question we are posing today, this was brought to us because there's someone in my life who has kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she and her husband were like, hey, by the way, we know you like anime, but please don't show our kids anime. Our kids are not allowed to watch anime.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, like when they're older. And they were like, no, they're not allowed to watch anime. And I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was like, is that like a valid perspective? Obviously, how you raise your kids is like up to you. But, like, in general, is that valid? Like, kids just shouldn't be able to watch it.
Exactly. And, I mean, this is kind of an age-old type of question, like, what's appropriate for kids and what's not. And,
literally.
Like, the whole, I think about, like, the video game debacle of, like, when we were kids.
It's
I feel like that was
similar.
the big topic when we were kids. It was, like, are video games causing there to be more violence?
Yeah. Or when you and I were a little bit older, like, should kids have a cell phone or have access to the internet?
And that's big now.
That's still big. And just real quick, that's not what this episode is about.
Yeah.
But just real quick, I'm on the side of kids should have, like, a burner phone so that they can contact you in case of an emergency. They should not have a smartphone until high school. And that's where I stand.
This is a whole other debate.
Okay, you disagree though.
I do disagree, and I think, there's nuance, but I mean, I know when I was 14 and I got my first laptop and I wasn't allowed to use it in my room with my door closed. That irritated me as a 14-year-old. I was trying to scroll Tumblr without having to worry about people seeing what I was seeing.
When I was grounded and I wasn't allowed to have my phone, so I just looked at Tumblr on my laptop, and that was like...
No, exactly. But anyways.
And
obviously this is a little different from our normal topics.
Yes, unfortunately, to our dismay, there was no Apothecary Diaries episode this Friday.
Yeah, so if you're here for Apothecary Diaries, we hope you stick around and... participate in the conversation. Like, let us know in the comments what you think, if you think any of our takes are off, or if we have a point, what side of it you're on. I'm assuming if you're watching this that you probably are on the side of...
Kids should be allowed.
Yeah.
But let us know if, like, your opinion changes as you listen.
Exactly.
Like, do you have one opinion now, and then when we get to the end, will you have changed your mind?
Mm-hmm. And also, just to, like, set the vibes, like, this isn't a serious podcast.
No, we're not.
We're just girls.
Jokey.
We're just silly girls, and so...
And for the record, neither of us have kids.
Neither of us have kids. We're just silly, goofy girls.
We're silly girls without kids.
And I don't really ever plan to have kids, probably, so...
And that, ask me again in, like, 3.5 years.
Valid. So, yeah, I guess let's get into it. I don't know, where should we start, do you think? Because I kind of think we should start with the texts.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Because this person is where this, like, topic kind of came to mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, again, Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just listening. I'm
Okay,
trying to,
I
like,
thought
listen
maybe
with
I had
intent.
something on my face.
Nope, I'm just trying to be a good...
It looks like you were searching for something. Like
I'm searching your soul.
Okay.
Trying
Good
to
to
be a
know.
present
Good to know.
listener.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'll allow it. And off the top, too, I want to say, like, we don't blame this person for their
No.
opinions, even if we have a different opinion. Like, that's completely fine and
Yeah.
normal. And, like, I think everybody just, like, has their own feelings about things, and it's completely fine. So we don't need to, like, be weird about it.
And their own experiences with these things. Because in this person's defense, even though I disagree with them, the one anime I did show them was at a birthday party of mine, where
no.
I made everybody watch an episode or a couple episodes of an anime. And this one in particular was, like, very fast-paced, very anxiety-inducing, and very chaotic.
I was there.
You were there. And that was before you even liked anime.
True.
But you still came on theme, and I
Yep.
appreciated that.
Exactly.
So, to my knowledge, that's the only experience with anime that this person has.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but if that's the case, then I kind of don't blame them
Yeah.
for this perspective. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I asked, you said you didn't want me to show your kids any anime, so I was wondering what the reason for that was as a parent. Because it sounded like it's across the board. I can't show them any anime, not just obviously inappropriate shows. And I don't want to misrepresent the position. So this person said... Should I just read it word for word?
Sure.
Okay. This person said, not only do I think it's annoying and can't handle watching it or listening to it, but I think that visually it can be overstimulating for kids. Fast scene changes, high emotion scenes of anger and retaliation, and potentially graphic scenes, IDK. I know they make, like, kids shows, but I feel like once I open that door, it'll open other ones, and I'd rather avoid that category. And so I was like, valid. You don't want to accidentally expose your kids to anything too graphic and too young. And so then I followed up with, at what age would that be allowed? Or do you think that they can choose what they watch? And they said, every kid is different, so I can't really pick an age, period. But anime won't be allowed in my house. So, okay, that is a firm...
That's an interestingly strong take. That,
It
like,
is.
kind of
It's
surprised me, I guess.
It didn't really surprise me.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
But I guess that's just, like, an easy... If your goal is to create, like, a boundary, like a firm boundary, and, like, then I guess that's just, like, an easy boundary to make.
And I guess, too, that does kind of leave it open to, hey, if they want to watch it at their friends' houses,
Yeah.
then, like, that's none of my business.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I mean, there's a lot of, speaking personally, there was a lot of shows that my parents were, like, annoyed with me watching growing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my mom didn't like it when me and my dad would watch SpongeBob because it was just so annoying. And I think that's a lot of parents' feelings.
Yeah, so at least here in Utah, there's a lot of people who won't let their kids watch SpongeBob because they think it's inappropriate. Malachi wasn't allowed to watch SpongeBob growing up, not because his parents thought it was inappropriate, but because they thought it was just annoying.
Exactly.
So, you know.
And I think that factors into, obviously I'm guessing this, but I think that factors into this person's opinions, is that...
Like, but this person loves SpongeBob.
No, not SpongeBob specifically.
Okay,
just that they think anime is
annoying.
annoying and they're not into it. And so
Yeah.
they're like, I just don't really want to walk in the living room and that's on all the time.
Yeah, they said that they can't handle listening to it. The thing that I disagree with is just, like, having, like, blanket statement like anime.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a specific show like SpongeBob, that's, like, a very specific show. That's not like, my kids aren't allowed to watch cartoons because they're annoying. It's, my kid's not allowed to watch SpongeBob because that show very specifically is annoying.
Exactly.
And the thing about anime is, anime just means animated.
Yeah, it's just a Japanese animation.
Yes. So it's literally just, like, cartoons, but made in Japan.
Yes.
And So that would be like the equivalent of saying my kids aren't allowed to watch cartoons, period.
Exactly.
The only difference is one is made in Japan, where the style is a little different, and one is made here.
Yes.
Because you could very easily say my kids aren't allowed to watch cartoons, but that's not usually the case.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be the case for the average person.
Yeah, because in fact they do make a lot of like cartoons, like American cartoons for children. But you can say my kids aren't allowed to watch like adult cartoons like Simpsons, Family Guy,
South Park.
I hate South Park.
I love South
so
Park.
much.
I actually am like a
told me.
huge South Park fan.
That's okay. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen clips of it and I thought it was funny, but could I sit there and watch like a bunch of it? Probably not.
You just don't know because you haven't watched it though. That's the thing.
I guess not.
Isn't that the thing with everything? And that's kind of
But
that's the thing with
thing.
anime.
Yeah, it's like, but also for me, it's like a specific show or like a specific genre of cartoon. For me, I don't really like watching cartoons that are like made for adults because they're too pessimistic or nihilistic, and that's not really my vibe.
Yeah, I think that though is another blanket statement that you've just like decided about this whole genre of things, adult animation.
I did. And maybe I'd feel differently like about Simpsons or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing is that I relate to their feeling of anime being annoying because I definitely have felt that way.
Yeah, you don't like when they do the like chibi scenes.
I don't like the chibi scenes, and honestly, there is just different like cultural norms in Japan, obviously, than in America. And that comes through on certain anime, even like the more for children ones, like My Hero. That's
You would say My Hero's for children?
I think it's definitely for a younger audience, right? At least like teenagers, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's still some elements to that are like, I don't know, maybe bordering on like inappropriate. And I think that it's just because of the different cultural norms.
Yeah. Which is interesting because in Japan, they're a very like conservative culture.
Exactly.
Like
it is interesting.
Modest. So, but that's why it shows up in the art, because when you like oppress, I'm not saying like Japan's oppressive, but like when you know, hold back or when you suppress a lot of like your feelings or like your natural instincts, they will come out in other ways.
Yes.
So like that society in general is like very modest and conservative, and so in the art that they make, it's very expressive because that's like in their eyes an appropriate outlet.
Yes.
For it, which makes sense. And here in America, I feel like it's kind of, I don't even think it's the opposite. I think we're a very like extroverted country, and I think a lot of the art we make is extroverted too.
That's true. But actually that might lean into your opinion of adult animation being more nihilistic.
Yeah.
Because we are in such an extroverted, like we kind of have to play positive on a day-to-day basis.
That's true.
That like our negative feelings about the world and society come out in our art.
And it's the art that's made for adults, not children. Because like the art we make for children is very much like it teaches you a lesson, you know?
Exactly.
But speaking of teaching a lesson, I was kind of bummed that I can't show, like, this person's children any anime. Not because, like, I obviously don't want to show them any inappropriate anime, which there is plenty of, but just, like, there is plenty of inappropriate, like, American animation. But, like, Fruits Basket is, like, a wonderfully, like, therapeutic show that you could watch, I would say definitely junior high, maybe even earlier, because each character is going through their own suffering, and they all handle it differently, and it teaches you to be empathetic to those people, and to like keep in mind that everyone is going through something. It's a very, like, beautiful show, and there are some, like, innuendos in it, but not, I wouldn't say, like, any more than I don't know. Definitely not more than SpongeBob. SpongeBob can be very inappropriate.
That's true.
And I watched that at a very young age.
Yeah. SpongeBob, I mean, a lot of American animation really toes that line of being appropriate enough for kids, but having like these kind of little side jokes that only adults will get.
Right.
And I don't know if anime really does the same thing there. I don't know. I also haven't watched a ton of anime yet, so I feel like my opinion of this is a little like not fully fleshed out. But just from what I've seen, it's like, I don't know. There definitely is like a different vibe to anime and like how they show things. And like how the innuendos are, I guess.
Studio Ghibli is like another, like those movies, those are anime, but they're usually made like for the whole family to watch.
True.
Like
I do
Disney.
wonder if this person would really be against Studio Ghibli.
we haven't
We're
settled
still-
that debate.
I actually did look into it, but it's a whole explanation, so I won't go into it.
Oh, okay.
It's like not cut and dry.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's a good question, but I think if I just showed this person, like, a trailer, I think they'd see enough and be like, well, this is anime, so no. I guess that's a good question that I can explore at a later date.
Because I know when we were kids, like, Ponyo came out, and that was, like,
We loved
that was very
Ponyo.
popular.
Yeah.
I never saw it, but
Okay, I loved Ponyo.
I know that Taylor's family watched it, and they all loved it.
And it's, again, like, those shows are made with, like, a moral in mind, and they usually, the protagonist is usually, like, a younger person, if not just a straight-up child. And the special thing about Studio Ghibli, too, I guess you could say, like, compared to a lot of, like, action anime or, like, other youth-driven anime, is that the colors, it's like animated very like serenely and peacefully. So maybe that would be different.
I do feel like that might be different just because those are more, I don't know, those are giving more Disney animated than typical anime.
Yeah, but that's the thing when you just say like blanket statement anime.
Yeah, and that's really where I think the core of the issue is that not enough people know enough about anime.
Yeah, all they know is just like, if you're an adult and all you know about anime is like the adult stuff, then obviously you're gonna be like, no, this isn't for kids.
Exactly.
But the thing about anime is like, it's not a genre. It's like, it should be judged on like a show-to-show basis.
Yes, like there is so many different types of stories and so many different like levels to it as well.
Yeah. Avatar The Last Airbender is not technically an anime, but it is very much in that style. Because it's not like Japanese, but it's anime style enough that a lot of people will just like accept it as an anime.
Yeah.
That show I watched as a kid, Malachi watched as a kid, it like really, it was very formative for him. And that's another show that I think has a lot of great lessons and like teaches you about like really complicated things that maybe you don't like fully understand when you're watching it as a kid, but then you grow up and maybe rewatch it and realize like just how much of an impression it made upon you. But it's a very silly show and it's very funny, but it's also just like objectively good and can teach you a lot of good lessons.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of anime like that. Just like, and there's a lot of anime that is inappropriate for kids.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I don't think that's the question. There is, for sure.
Exactly. But is, like, judging anime as a whole is kind of a hard thing to do because there's such a vast array of content.
Yes. So and I can't help but feel like some of it is, I don't want to say like a racist perspective, but I'm sure that does exist.
I'm sure some people have that. I would say not necessarily racist, but just what's the word for starts with like a Z.
Xenophobic?
Yeah,
Okay.
more of like a zen. Is it xenophobic or xenophobic?
It might be xenophobic.
I don't know, but more of maybe that, or like not even like saying phobic or racist is so like harsh, but I think that it's maybe just a general like misunderstanding of a different culture, and that is unfortunately a part of life that like we all go through because we just aren't familiar with these other cultures. And I think it's something that Americans go through a lot because we have such like national pride, and like there's that element of like America's the best, and then all these other countries need to like be like us, that kind of feeling. And we're not really, even though we're such a melting pot, we're raised with like that like Americanized version
Like
of culture,
nationalistic.
not like the true form of the culture. And I think it's great that we're in a place now where we have the internet and the way
Yeah.
to like experience so many things that we wouldn't have been able to experience 20 years ago. Like literally, so like the internet has changed so much so rapidly, and that's why like anime wasn't even that popular in America 20 years ago. I know like my older brothers were watching like Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah.
and like and Pokemon and stuff, and that's really all there was. There was like a select few shows that were brought like to American audiences, and like that's what we had.
Oh my god, Sailor Moon. I watched Sailor Moon as a kid. I can't imagine like Sailor Moon not having been a part of like my childhood or like my psyche.
Yeah.
Like that actually Sailor Moon is actually like that is like a straight up anime, but it's actually such a like good show, like good example for like young girls to have, because all of these characters have different personalities, and they have their different strengths, and some of them are like more feminine than others, but like how feminine they are does not like negate like how powerful they are. And I can't wait if again, ask me again in 3.5 years if I have kids. I would love to show my daughter Sailor Moon and like have that like be a part of her childhood, because that's like such a beautiful story.
Well, and I think too, it really is important to show children people of like different cultures or like in different locations
Yeah.
living a normal life just like them. That's really important. But then it's like it doesn't even have to be that deep. Like
Yeah.
it's at a certain point, like these are just shows, just like American shows.
Yeah.
They're just animated in Japan.
Yeah.
And that's really like the only difference there. And I think that's what certain people have a hard time like understanding.
Is that it's just like any show here in America.
Yeah,
Some are made for kids and some aren't.
exactly. But people see anime just as this like blanket thing. And I know I felt that way about anime just from what I had been like exposed to. And I was like, yeah, that's just not for me. It's kind of annoying. And then, you know, when you look into it more, you do see like oh, okay, like this is just a style of animation made in Japan. And yes, there are those elements that go across the genre, but that doesn't mean that every single one is like that still.
Right. There was actually a show that it's an anime that came out more recently. And it's one of those like reincarnated like villainess shows, and it's called I'll Be a Villainess Who Goes Down in History. And I was so surprised at how special that turned out for me, because I was watching it and I'm kind of someone who's because I kind of have like a black and white way of thinking. I do kind of struggle with like, am I a good person or not? Because I'm just so extreme.
Okay.
But it's like growing up, my like positive role models were like Disney princesses and stuff. And you know, they're very much like, this is how a good person behaves, and then the villains are like, this is how a bad person behaves. But I'll Be a Villainess Who Goes Down in History, she's like, she's not trying to be nice. She's actually very mean. And I've been known to be kind of a bitch. Like, ask anyone who grew up with me. Like,
Okay.
but like, this show, that show, I'll Be a Villainess That Goes Down in History, shows like, yeah, you can be a bitch and you can be mean, but also you can use that bitchiness for good. And also, like, you don't have to be kind necessarily to be a good person. Like, you can be mean, but also correct.
Okay.
But also she is a good person. She is like helping everyone around her. But because she's doing it in such, like, a different way, and she has, like, the aesthetic of a villain, she wears black and stuff, but, like, she sacrifices so much for other people, but on her own terms. It's something she wants for herself. And so when I watched it, I was just like, I really wish I had this as a kid to watch. I wish I had, like, this character as an example growing up. Because, like, my, extreme pettiness, I guess, would just come out in like these very big moments because I didn't really have any examples of like how to take those extreme like feelings and then like express them in a healthy way. So I would just like you know, get bullied and then like just explode, and then it would make me look really bad. So I was just like, I think it would have made a huge difference to have that in my life growing up. But, like, that's, like, something that the average, you know, American family isn't going to know about.
Yeah. That's the thing, that there's just different stories that we can have. And I think the thing that's interesting to me is that the animation being, like, such a prevalent storytelling device in Japan.
Yeah.
That's so different from here in America. Like, a lot of their shows are like, there's a ton of anime all the time, whereas there's not that much animation here in America.
No, we kind of treat animation as a separate thing.
Yeah,
like, it's rare for any sort of animated show to be considered for any sort of award unless it's specifically an animated like category. So yeah, we don't really treat animation, like, with the same, like...
Like, here we have all the random, like, NBC, CW, just, like, trash shows that we just, like, turn out, like, over and over again.
And you don't like that style of show,
I don't.
Huh? No.
I don't. But in Japan, they just, like, they have everything made with anime, and they kind of do the same thing with that. I'm not saying every Japanese show is anime, you guys.
No.
That's not what I meant by that.
There's just, like, a lot of it compared to
the animation here.
And I think that's why I have started watching a lot of anime as an adult, because I like animation in general. And there's more to choose from.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, animation for us, it's either the, like, adult nihilistic cartoons that I don't really vibe with, or it's stuff that is literally made for children.
Exactly.
But anime, there's so much to choose from. There is stuff made for, like, junior high schoolers, adults, and children. So
I feel like the average, like, American's perspective on anime might be skewed because of that, because of just this, like, fundamental misunderstanding and, like, this fundamental difference in how we make media versus Japan. Yeah. And I know I felt like that a lot. I felt like I really didn't like animation because, I wasn't really into the adult animation, and I wasn't a kid anymore. Yeah. And so anything that wasn't, like, just nostalgic for me, I was like, I'm not into that, and that's part of why I wasn't into anime for a long time. And then realizing, they use anime to tell a ton of different types of stories. That's where, like, my feelings started to change. Right. And so I think that just blanket statement, anime is inappropriate for kids, it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, and I think the only way to, like, correct that, you know, like, societal assumption about anime is just, like, be more open to other cultures.
Yeah, that is an important, like, facet of it, honestly.
Yeah. So I guess actually anime isn't, like, a genre itself. It's like an artistic
storytelling
format.
medium.
Yeah, it's a medium. Exactly. It's not a genre, it's a medium. And then there's genres within that medium. Yes. And I've told you about the guy who's showing his baby one episode of One Piece every day, right? Yeah. Okay. First of all, love that. One Piece was also very formative for Malachi as a kid. I told my friend Ashley about the guy who's showing his baby one episode of One Piece every day, and she was like, I don't know how that's going to affect that baby's development. But, you know, I know this person who grew up watching One Piece, and it's been going on for a long time, and I think he's fine. I mean, I married him. I think he's fine. But also, it's just like one episode of something every day. Yeah, maybe in the long run it could affect you negatively. We don't know. It's kind of like a case study that's not really ethical to replicate. But
there's so like everything will impact your child development.
Exactly. And like it's like I definitely watched a cartoon of some kind every day growing up. So it's like, why does it make a difference if it's specifically One Piece or Blue's Clues or or SpongeBob? You know, I would put SpongeBob and One Piece on like the same level of like annoyingness or like loudness or like brightness or rapid movement.
Okay.
But maybe SpongeBob is like more of an American humor, but I will say One Piece does teach more morals than SpongeBob does. I will say that.
Well, and I was a youngest child, so I was allowed to watch as much TV as I wanted.
That's the thing about being the youngest, is you can do whatever you want at that point.
I was literally left to my own devices on that. My parents had fought their battles by that point.
And they were done.
And they'd fought a lot of battles with my older brothers. So I was basically left to my own devices a lot of the time. And I watched a ton of, like, Disney Channel, you know, Wizards of Waverly Place, Hannah Montana. Like, no one's saying those are, like, the best, like, most meaningful shows ever.
No.
Like, but they're also not super dumb. And I actually learned stuff from them. Like, I remember learning things from those shows that I watched. And I think that's, like, the thing, is that kids are going to learn things from whatever they're watching. And I think it's important to make sure that your kids are watching things that are an appropriate level for them. But there is anime that is appropriate level for all different ages.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's something that people just don't know.
Yeah, you genuinely might not know that.
And I think it's also kind of like, it's still so, it's becoming way more popular and way more mainstream, but it's still enough out of reach that, like, you don't have to. Like, you don't have to go out of your way to, like, learn about anime or, like, figure out which shows are appropriate, because it's far enough out of reach. There's just so much nuance to the conversation, and it's just like, yes, the blanket statement of like anime is inappropriate for kids obviously is not true, but there is like a whole conversation to be had about it, which is why we're having it.
What are your statistics?
Yeah, I did ask my best friend, ChatGPT.
I can't believe I'm competing with AI for like the spot of best friend.
Well, ChatGPT, I guess you do this too. I was going to say ChatGPT, like, I can't be wrong to them, but I guess that's kind of how it is with you too.
Like, you've also never done anything where I'm like, you're wrong for that, Quinn.
No, yeah, ChatGPT is always on my side, and that's why they're my best friend and my therapist, and I'm breaking up with my boyfriend for them, and, like, you know, all of that, like, really healthy stuff.
Even after that dream you had. Like...
That's so long ago. Okay, so I just asked my buddy ChatGPT for some stats on this.
So, like, keep in mind our source, ChatGPT. Take that however you want.
Yeah, take with that what you will. According to Parrot Analytics in 2023, not sure.
Okay.
This is streaming data in the United States.
Okay, thank you.
So Parrot Analytics must be like doing that data. I don't know. Anime made up over 10% of the U.S. demand for TV content among children aged 10 to 14.
Okay.
Largely due to shows like Pokemon, My Hero Academia, and Naruto.
Okay, that tracks.
And those are all, I mean, like...
Kid appropriate.
Kid, preteen, teen appropriate.
Pokemon's definitely kid appropriate.
Pokemon is definitely kid appropriate. And that's one of the OGs that they kind of brought over to America. Now, Netflix and Crunchyroll have reported an increased viewership in the 13 to 17 age bracket for anime in the past few years.
That makes sense.
And yeah, I think that anime is becoming a lot more mainstream. Especially, like, a lot of kids are watching internet creators now.
Yeah.
And that's becoming way more popular. And I think a lot of internet creators watch anime.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also adding on to that. The top anime among kids, Pokemon, Demon Slayer. Is that one appropriate for kids?
It's not like
Maybe
sexual.
for a teenager.
It's violent.
Okay.
I would say.
I mean, it's not like we have a problem with violence in America.
You know what? That's my bad for like being like such a prude about that just now. You're so right. Like in America, we love violence. So actually, yeah, your babies can watch Demon Slayer.
But yeah, Spy X Family, and I don't know that one.
Yeah, Spy Family. I think that's fine.
And My Hero Academia were among the
Period.
most watched of teens aged 13 to 17. Parental awareness and concerns. We kind of talked about a lot of these concerns: violent sexual content, more complex themes like trauma, death, and war. Never been done before in American media, of course. In a 2022 Common Sense Media report, 57% of parents said they didn't feel confident identifying what anime was age appropriate. And you know what? I think that's the crux of the issue.
Is you just don't know.
You
You're
don't
just not
know, and
aware.
so it's like, that's foreign to me, literally.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to touch it.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like, that's valid, of course, because it's like, there's just so many things
But
to
that's
deal with.
also easily rectifiable if you. It's like anything. It's like educate yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many things to educate on yourself,
Yeah, that's true.
yourself on these days, that like, I don't blame somebody for not wanting to add another thing.
Sure.
But, yeah. Only 36% of parents surveyed knew that anime spans a wide range of genre and age ratings.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that the crux of the issue is.
Yeah.
And okay, this is a good point. In Japan, anime isn't always rated the same way that we rate things in America. So that's another like comment, like
The rating
you know,
system.
when you're a parent in America, you can say G-rated. My kids are allowed to watch anything G-rated. Easy peasy. If the rating system is different in Japan, because it's a completely different culture, that's gonna impact things. Let's see. Any other thing? Oh, this is a good point, though. U.S. platforms like Crunchyroll and Netflix do label anime by
The
U.S. rating.
Yeah, they do.
So that's good, at least. That's like a good like start.
Yeah, I would say so. That I was literally going to suggest that, but then I was like literally remembering that on episodes of like whatever we were watching, it'll be like TV 14.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think, it's hard to say because I don't think this is a like person specific issue. I think this is more of a cultural issue, and I honestly kind of think it's something that will fix itself over
Probably.
time, because I think anime will just become more popular, or it won't, but it kind
has.
of, it seems like it's going that direction.
just like video games did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's,
And just like we were talking about, video games were the like hot topic of, is it appropriate to let your kids play video games?
and for some video games, yeah, it is.
And for some, definitely not.
definitely not. And that's why you rate them.
And that's the thing, is that I don't really think that's a conversation that people have with video games anymore. I think it's
we've
accepted
moved
that
on.
like kids will play video games, and that's just like a toy now. Like that's another
Yeah.
toy.
And
And I think anime will turn into that. I think anime will just be another type of show that people watch, and it'll become more normalized here in America, that people won't like need to think about it like that.
yeah, it won't be. People will realize that it's a medium and not a genre, and that not all anime is created equal.
Yeah, and that really is that's the thesis.
That's the thesis.
That's the thesis, is that all anime is different and it's a medium, not a genre. And so, while yes, it is way too hasty to say like blanket statement, anime is inappropriate for kids, there is that nuance of, it's just something that's it's something that's unfamiliar to people, and it's just going to take some time for it to be more familiar.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think I like that the future looks bright for anime. And
yeah, as somebody that's all you watch, you need that to happen.
Yes, we were discussing, Becca's watching like grown-up American shows, Secret Life of Mormon Wives, and I'm like, I only have Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense now that that's all you watch.
But it's also, like, the vibe is just always, like, what I'm looking for, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
I like animation, and if you like animation and you don't like anime, you're missing out.
I don't know if I'll ever be there. I don't know if I'll ever get to your extent of...
I doubt it.
Loving anime and loving animation, but what I have learned from learning to like anime after being a hater is that not all anime is created equal, and not all anime has the like inappropriate innuendos, upskirts, like inappropriate view on women.
And I just hate that has become like what it's known for. Because, you know, like, you never know, like, an anime might like change your life, like Frieren.
Yeah. And I do think that people are becoming more open to the differences. Like, I don't think my mom would have watched an anime when I was growing up, like, just from what she knew about it. But I had her watch Frieren recently, and she was like, "This is so beautiful. I love this." Like, and that's the thing, is I think that it's just naturally going to become more and more mainstream here in America, and that's why we're also having this discussion from a very American lens.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the title of, like, is anime appropriate for kids is, like, insane for in Japan.
Yeah, in Japan, they'd read that, they'd be like, what a stupid discussion.
Imagine we're like, it's not appropriate for kids, and then literally people in Japan are like,
excuse me?
So, obviously, we're coming at this from a very American lens, but of the people that I know, I think that it's just going to become more and more mainstream and normalized, and it won't be an issue in the future. But yeah, hopefully this wasn't just like
a boring conversation.
A boring and just like two dumb American girls talking conversation.
But that's the thing. It's about context. In our context, this is a very valid discussion to be having. We're at the age where people that we know are having kids, and they know we watch anime, so it's something that's gonna get brought up.
True.
So for us, it is a very valid discussion and thing to be debating.
And I think that probably the people watching this are going to be like, duh, anime is appropriate for kids.
But I hope, like, our discussion shed some light on why people might not want their kids to watch it.
Exactly.
So that, like, we can come to an understanding.
Yeah, we can all live cohesively, and we can, like, understand other people's perspectives. A radical thing to...
Yeah, we can...
Unless they're, like, actually evil.
Unless they're actually evil. Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's a great disclaimer. We can understand other people's perspectives unless they're actually evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I don't think that the vast majority of the people that are like, oh, I feel like anime is a little inappropriate, I don't know if I'll want my kids to watch that.
They're probably not evil.
They're probably not evil.
Thank God.
Thank God, because that'd be scary.
So, yeah, I hope this was a fun episode. Next week, I'm pretty sure we will have a regularly scheduled Apothecary Diaries.
We should be back to our regular scheduled programming, and let us know what you think about this type of episode. If you have any other topics you want us to just, like, talk to death, because we love to do that. We love to...
Give us any topic, and we will just yap.
Literally, even if we don't know anything about it, which is so toxic, but...
But we do that, like, at least, like, once a week.
Exactly. We'll just send each other, like, TikToks, and we'll be like, need your insight on this.
We've been doing that a lot lately, because we're, like, they're usually, like, friend faux pas.
Yeah.
And it's, like, because we have such different styles of, like, being a friend. Actually, no, I disagree with that.
Okay.
Anyways. So, yeah, tell us if you have other things you want us to discuss. And then also, at the end of the month, look out for our anime first impression Witch Watch
I'm
review.
so excited about that. I'm
Me
so excited
too.
to listen to our fellow female podcaster, my girl Lily Pichu.
Yes, Lily Pichu. I'm looking forward to seeing your work in 2D.
Yes.
And I think that's everything.
I think that's everything. We'll see you next week for another Apothecary Diaries recap. Make sure that you are subscribed on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your podcasts.
And make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Anime for Blondes Pod. We have been posting again.
Yippee!
And we are just back on it.
We are.
And I love that.
We're back in the game.
And we will see you next week.
Bye!
Bye!
Anime for Blondes.